On Get Up, and if you were just joining us, we opened this morning with breaking news. Adrian Wojnarowski with a Woj bomb right off the top of our show. Anthony Davis and the Lakers are finalizing a 5-year, $190 million max contract. So it becomes a day of enormous basketball news between this and the trade from yesterday. But the headline here is that the Lakers now have LeBron locked up for 3 years and Anthony Davis locked up for 5. And let's start the conversation there with Big Perk. It's been too long since we've had Kendrick Perkins back here. Great to see you, big fella. So with that Laker news, let's say that's 3 years now they are assured of having AD and LeBron together. In those 3 years, how many championships do they win?
Well, Granny, listen, all I've been hearing this whole offseason is that it's not that much money. Guys are not about to get paid. But guess what? Down there in L.A., guess what's happening? All I see is the Brinks trucks going up and down the highway, Greeny. And look, they are taking care of their superstars, and rightfully so. You have a guy who people call the Wash King and LeBron James. Guess what? Jenny Buss said he's not washed to us, and we go show you. We go extend him to a well-deserved $85 million contract. And then we're going to lock in our 27-year-old generational stud in Anthony Davis. Our duo is not going anywhere. And we have strong belief that over the next 4 years at least, that these two guys could be the best duo in the league and deliver more championships, and rightfully so. Job well done by the Lakers organization, Rob Pelinka and Rich Paul by getting it done.
I'm not letting you off the hook. How many? Next 3 years. Right now, those two guys are locked in for the next 3. How many of the next 3 rings do you think the Lakers get?
I think they get about 2, maybe. I think they get about 2, Greeny. And look, right now, LeBron is feeling rejuvenated. He knows that he's playing alongside Anthony Davis, and he wants to take advantage of it. And look, watch and see in the next couple of years, LeBron is going to defer to Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis will be in the MVP conversation. So I see them winning at least 2 more championships.
Well, that's a really significant number, Kendrick Perkins, and you don't need me to tell you this, but just to remind everyone, LeBron has 4. 2 more would give him 6. What would 6 championships for LeBron James mean for his legacy?
Well, I know your partner in crime, Stephen A, is probably saying not a damn thing, but it would do everything for his legacy. It would shut up the old haters like Jalen Rose, my guy, who always going to keep Michael Jordan at the top, but it's going to put him right there in the conversation with Mike and prove those old haters wrong. So I'm rooting for old King James to go ahead and get his 6 titles.
All right, again, they have added other pieces as well. Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder, Marc Gasol, so they get younger and more veteran experience. The Lakers go into next year as a significant favorite. Meanwhile, for those of you who didn't see the news yesterday, a Woj bomb late yesterday afternoon, an enormous trade in the NBA with Russell Westbrook going to Washington from Houston in exchange for John Wall. So let's start by talking about Houston. What does that make them with James Harden, John Wall, who hasn't played in almost 2 years? What do you think this means for the Rockets?
Well, Granny, to be honest, I don't know, and I don't think the Rockets know. I think this is going to be a trial run. What I want you to look out for and everybody to watch is watch the Philadelphia 76ers and the Houston Rockets the first 30 games of the season. Because if it's not going their way for both teams, look for Daryl Morey to be aggressive in pursuing James Harden. Because if that John Wall fit, if the John Wall and James Harden don't fit, James Harden is really going to force his way out, and I see him going to the 76ers if it don't pan out the way he wants it.
I've heard Philly, and of course we heard some speculation about Brooklyn. Right now, James Harden, if you were advising him and he's your former teammate, would you tell him to go to Philly and play with those guys or go to Brooklyn and play with KD?
Well, short term, I would tell him to go to the Brooklyn Nets. Long term, I would tell them to go to the Philadelphia 76ers and pair up with Joel Embiid. He's never played with a big man like Joel. He's never played with a player like Joel Embiid. This guy's a generational talent. I think those two would match well together, and they could play together for the next 4 to 5 years at an extremely high level. Going to the Brooklyn Nets, that would be like a 2-year deal where it was just like, oh, I'm coming here to try to win a title. What's next? But if you go to Philly, you could play there long term.
You see on the screen, the Rockets don't plan to trade James Harden, but we all know what happens to plans. Every now and again, you wind up getting punched in the face. Big Perk, outstanding to see you, my friend. We'll do it again soon. Meanwhile, let me get up and that and more as we get up with you on this Thursday from the Seaport. Greeny here, delighted you're there. My football crew is ready to go. But let us go to breaking news immediately. Our NBA insider extraordinaire, Adrian Wojnarowski, has been dropping bombs left and right, and we have a new one this morning. Woj, what do we have?
Greeny, Anthony Davis is finalizing a 5-year, $190 million max deal to return to the Lakers. His agent, Rich Paul, tells me that deal will include an early termination option before the 5th year, before the 24-25 season. So now Anthony Davis and LeBron James both locked up long term. I'm told that Davis could sign that contract as soon as today.
Yeah, so LeBron with a 2-year extension on top of the year that he had. That's 3 more years for him. AD for 5 years now. So the Lakers in extraordinarily good shape going into this season. And I mentioned Woj has been very busy with that breaking news on top of the trade last night. For those, Woj, who didn't see it, let's go through the monster deal from the NBA last night, the Rockets and the Wizards.
Yeah, John Wall headed to the Houston Rockets along with a 2023 first-round pick for Russell Westbrook. That was a deal that came together very quickly yesterday. The two general managers talked for the first time in weeks in the afternoon, and they had a deal a few hours later, agreed on the parameters of the deal. And now, you know, for both Houston and Washington, each is trying to please their franchise player, James Harden and Bradley Beal. They exchanged point guards. Both point guards wanted to go to the other team. And there's a lot at stake for both Washington and Houston now as they move forward and trying to keep Bradley Beal, trying to keep James Harden long term.
So many moving parts in all of this. Again, it's almost hard to keep track of. Is there any way of gauging at this point how this will impact James Harden, who we know has been giving serious thought to wanting out of Houston? Do we have any way of knowing if this will make him happy?
Well, he had a preference of John Wall over Westbrook, although in the last couple of years, you know, Harden has moved teammates in and out, brought Chris Paul in, moved him out. Same with Russell Westbrook now. Whether that's going to be enough to convince him to want to be there long term, Rockets aren't sure about that. They do have a cushion to work with. Remember, James Harden's under contract for 2 more years. So they're going to start the season with Harden and Wall, and they're hopeful that John Wall can get back to that all-star form, a 5-time all-star, a former #1 overall pick. And if they can get John Wall back playing at a high level, you know, they're hopeful that will help to make a case to James Harden.
All right, so just extraordinary. Again, recapping last night, Woj, with the news of the huge trade, and this morning, breaking right here on Get Up, it is a 5-year, $190 million deal for Anthony Davis in L.A. We'll get you and Jay Will back a little later to break this thing down. Woj, outstanding. Thank you so much on this very...
On SportsCenter AM, we have a Woj bomb on this Thursday morning. All-NBA forward Anthony Davis finalizing a 5-year, $190 million maximum contract to stay with the LA Lakers. Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul telling ESPN that deal includes an early termination option prior to the 5th season in 2024-25, and the deal could be signed as soon as today. Adrian Wojnarowski joining us here on SportsCenter AM. Woj, what more can you tell us about how this deal came together?
Yeah, Randy, Anthony Davis, his agent Rich Paul, have been talking through the length of a deal that they wanted to do with the Lakers. They knew they were returning to L.A., and they worked through details last night with each other, with the Lakers, and he's going to sign that 5-year deal. He'll have an early termination option after the 4th year, before the 2024-25 season, when he'll still be in his early 30s and be able to go back and presumably get another big contract. So now he has 1 more year on his deal than LeBron James, who signed an extension yesterday. But now Anthony Davis and LeBron James both locked in long term as the Lakers pursue more titles in LA.
That is a problem for the rest of the Western Conference, and let's be honest, really, for the rest of the NBA. That's Adrian Wojnarowski with the very latest. Keep it with us on SportsCenter. On SportsCenter, All-NBA forward Anthony Davis is finalizing a 5-year, $190 million maximum contract to stay with the Los Angeles Lakers. CEO Rich Paul of Clutch Sports telling ESPN, deal includes an early termination option prior to the 5th season in 2024-25. Deal could be signed as soon as today. And AD was the key